The countdown is on, but you're not alone. This is Countdown to College, your weekly guide from Education Quest Foundation, here to help you plan, apply, and pay for college one step at a time. I'm your host, Gage, and today I am joined by Jason Combs, Director of Technology and Marketing, also for Education Quest Foundation. Hi, Jason. Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you, as always, for having me on.
So, Jason, we have some pretty exciting news because huge update actually just dropped for our activities resume tool.
Yeah,
So,
super exciting to
yeah,
have something new out there in the world for people.
why don't we just start with the basics for maybe, people who haven't used activities resume at all. So, what is the tool and how can high school students use it to support their college and scholarship goals?
Sure. Activities Resume is a tool that was developed by Education Quest Foundation specifically to give students a free resource to create a resume that they could use for, like you pointed out, scholarship applications, college applications. But when we created it, we always wanted to be very adaptable for the students. So we get a lot of students and stuff that have used it in the past for their first job, or maybe trying to get a promotion at a job or something. So it can really play a lot of different roles throughout the life cycle of the student, and isn't specific to just college.
Yeah, I remember I used some really bad like Google Drive templates for like my first few resumes, and as soon as I put my information into this, it looked so much better. Just because we'll talk about it, but there's so much to kind of assist you along the way making your first resume. So, like we talked about, this is an updated version of, the tool we've offered in the past. What kind of makes this version new and better than the previous one?
Well, if you've seen the old version, and if you have any recollection, I mean, obviously those of us who work here have a very clear picture of what the old version looks like. So I'm guessing most of our listeners and viewers and stuff probably don't. But the look and the design of it is just, I think, the first thing that kind of sets off for everyone. It's just a much cleaner, fresher look. And then we added a bunch of features. There's a ton of new things that are kind of baked into it. There's a bunch of new stuff on the back end to make it more efficient, to make it easier to use, to make it faster when students put stuff in there. So there's just a lot of things that we kind of figured we're opening up the hood of the car here, and so we tweaked a lot of things, and some of the stuff is things that no one ever sees and knows about. But I know we're going to cover some of the big things that people can see and can do and haven't been able to do in the past.
So, if students have used this tool in the past, is their information going to be available on this new version?
Yeah, I can see how that'd be a big concern for people. Yeah, we don't want to get rid of information for users, and so if you've been using Activities Resume for years or something and are worried about that, you don't have to be. We mapped everything over, so your old data and stuff for the most part is there. There's a few weird things about coming from the old version to the new version that we did have to lose a few things that are in there, but when we looked at the user data and stuff, it was just stuff that most people weren't using anyways. So we just kind of merged some things into some places. So I think one thing for people to just be mindful of when they get into the new one, there's different categories than there were before. And so some of the stuff that it was in your old resume had to be mapped to kind of like two things into one kind of thing. So it's there. It may be in a little bit different spot, or the place it is may be named something different. So I encourage people just to get in and kind of wander through and see, because they'll probably find it within a few clicks.
That's great to hear, just because I've had some traumatic experiences with apps that release new versions, then it resets everything you've ever done before. So we talked about, mentioned that there are some new features. Can you kind of maybe walk us through some of those new ones and kind of talk about what they can do and what students can use them for?
Yeah, and you not just even new features, but like enhancements to old features. So in the old one, we've always had the ability to download resumes and email those resumes. We have a new system to make the emails more efficient, to make it easier for them to get to students. We had some problems with emails being blocked and things like that. So we worked a lot to make sure that that's a more reliable aspect of the tool for students. So that's really good. And there's a plain text version that's more universal. So the old version was really specific to Word, and so for Google Drive users or Mac users or something, there were weird things that would happen when they kind of move those together. So we went to just a generic text file for that, and so that'll make it easier for students who just want to get the data out and then want to manipulate it in a different design tool or something like that. Canva is one of those tools that's been big on the road on the rise and stuff. So this is going to make it easier for people to kind of just pull just the raw data out and then kind of put it into Canva if they want to design their resume there. So just trying to make that a little bit easier. There's also a ton of well, not a ton. There's a few new templates, but we have a new system on how to get templates. So we're gonna keep tabs on what's kind of new and what's the thing to do on resumes and what's a look or a layout or a design or something element that we can add to that. And so the options that you have today when you go into view your resume and you pick through those things might be different than what you'd see, in the future. We've simplified some of the categories. I talked about that a little bit, but just, bringing those down. We still have the ability to do custom categories. You could do that before. That was something that made Education Quest a little bit unique in this space, is that if you just want to put generic information in and title that whatever you want, and not just be kind of like uh, beholden to one person's idea of what should be on a resume, this gave you the creative freedom to kind of do your own kind of thing. And so we kept that, just made it look a little bit better, made it function a little bit easier. A lot more user intuitive titles and stuff and adaptabilities inside of tools. And then I think the big thing that a lot of people like to talk about, and I know we can't get away from, is AI is everywhere. And so we are trying to utilize that for students who need a little bit of help writing their resumes. We've added an AI tool to that so they can get some help as they're building their resume.
Yeah, what I love about all these is, kind of how we talked about earlier. This makes resumes so flexible. Like you can use this, for scholarships, you can use it for college applications, especially with custom categories, and you can use it for, however you need your resume to look for job opportunities, because every industry is different. So you just get a lot of flexibility now.
Yeah.
And so let's say, a student is starting for the first time. What's kind of like the user experience like? How easy is it to get started? Is it an overwhelming process? Is it simple? Just talk us through that.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the flexibility of the tool and how it can kind of do a lot of different things for a lot of different people. And that can be overwhelming. And so we really try to focus on, especially when we look at when students are doing the resume link, we need something that's going to be user intuitive. We need something that's going to be easy for them to use because for a lot of students, this is their first time building a resume, the first time keeping track of things and what they're doing. And so we really want to make it simple for those users. So if you're logging into Activities Resume for the first time, it's going to walk you through basic information, your name and your phone number and your mailing address and what's your email and things like that everyone puts on resumes. Gives you a couple additional categories and stuff to kind of blend out a picture of who you are and stuff, and then it walks you through some things that we feel like every student's going to have on their resume, or every student's going to do over the course of their 4 years in high school, that they should have on their resume. And so they can go in and kind of include those types of things when they get through those. uh, when they're all done with that, then it has an additional categories button where they can add more things to it. So there's going to be other suggested categories that are on there, but then that's how they access that custom categories thing where they can put, really whatever they want on there.
Yeah. And I know we already mentioned AI just a little bit, but for a first time user, um, what can this tool really do for you? Because I know I'm not the best speller. So is this like a kind of tool that would help me out a bit? Like, how's it work?
Yeah. So when we looked at implementing AI, I mean, sky's the limit with it. So it was a lot of constraint on as a tech guy on my side of things. It's like bring me out of the clouds. Uh, so what we're doing right now is it's just basic spelling and grammar check. And so there's a little button that activates it. And we did that for a very specific reason. So I want our users to understand like how that happens and what happens with there. If you don't hit that button, to turn on AI, then there's no AI component to Activities Resume. That way, you're comfortable knowing that your data is secure with Education Quest and follows our policies. And you can see our privacy policies and our data sharing agreements and stuff are all on our website. So if you love to read those things, you can go do that. But you can know that like there is no AI unless you turn it on. And if you turn it on, then right now what you're going to get is the spelling and grammar check stuff that you talked about, Gage. Um, in the future, this is an evolving tool. We always look to add new things. We always take user suggestions and stuff. So feel free to reach out to us and say, hey, I would love it if my resume could do this or something, and we'll take that into account and maybe that'll be a feature that gets added in the future. We are really looking at seeing like what's the next steps for AI for us. It we've talked about it taking more role in trying to help like guide not just the basics of how do you spell this correctly and what's the right way to format this sentence and really get into like, hey, have you thought about writing it this way or expanding on this or you added this, did you participate in something, have you taken a new class or joined a new club or something and kind of easing you through that process. So I think there's more to come for AI for Activities Resume, but right now we're really focused on just making sure that students have quality content on their resumes.
Yeah, like I said, this is great for me because I tend to type really fast and don't look back sometimes. So,
I don't think you're alone in that.
and so we again we've talked a little bit about templates already, but for someone who's maybe never used a resume tool before, they've only ever opened a Word document and started typing. How do these templates work, and what options do we have available right now?
Good question. So we have two components to the view. So when you get in there and you start putting information in, there's going to be a little preview box on desktop and most of your mobile devices, your larger screens and stuff, where you can literally see your resume being built while you're typing stuff in. And so you add a category, you add an activity inside of a category, and you'll see it right there. Obviously small, but like you'll see it right there in front of you, so you can kind of see how this is evolving and changing and that stuff. And then in addition to that, when you go into the view tab, you'll have different options to change what that view is. And so there's some basic formats. There's one that's really still very text-based, but has some components of um, like a modern feel or something, like just some different fonts and things like that. So still really generic, but that. And then we have some that we've really tried to go a little bit further out of the box and do some new designs and some new layouts and stuff that I hope that users really appreciate, kind of what those look like. And then again, like I said, we're always looking at what's out there, and so you wait a month or something, you may log into Activities Resume and see a brand new design available to you. And the great thing is that all your data is stored with Education Quest. So when we have a new layout, you'll be able to just go in and say, "Ooh, I really like that one." Select that one. That's the one you have.
Yeah, I'm such a visual person, and so it's hard for my brain sometimes to like when I'm typing in all the text fields and stuff to kind of imagine it. So the best part for me is literally having it right next to you
It's just
as you
right
build
there.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we've talked a little bit about, exporting and formats. So, and we kind of touched on this already a little bit too, but is this something that's able to be used not only for scholarships and college admissions, but also job applications? Because once you get into the professional world, resume roles get a little bit different. So let's say somebody has a resume from their high school. Are they able to go back in and kind of reformat that so they can use it for a job pretty easily?
Yeah, and even just not just reformatting and stuff, but just the different templates. Like one template may be great for a scholarship application where you're really trying to just gain attention or something, but might be a little bit too busy for a job application. And so it's a great thing to be able to say like, okay, so I can go in, I can select the one that I want for this scholarship that I'm applying for. I can export it to a PDF, save it to my computer, and then upload it, and I'm done. And then I go back in, I change the layout, I export it to PDF or export it to text file, and then voila, here I got the one for the application for work. So it makes that really simple. The other thing we haven't, a feature that's been in Activities Resume before that we haven't talked about that really makes this usable is every activity and every category that's in there is hideable. And so you can go in and literally just dump your life, everything that you've done in high school, all of your activities in there, and just make it this like massive a database of everything that you've participated in. But then when you don't really want to tell, this organization or this job because they don't care, about this club that you were in or something like that, like you can go in and just hide it. So it's not there when you export it, but you don't lose it. I remember when I was doing resumes, like I would go in and I would modify a resume for a job application, and then I would sit there going like, "Oh, what did I just delete? I might need that in the future, and I don't remember it." And so this way, you're not deleting anything; you're just hiding it, and so that makes it a lot easier for students to kind of flip the hat of, "Am I applying for a scholarship or am I applying for a job?"
So let's say, a student has their resume built and everything, it's ready to go. How often should students be coming back to their resumes to update them? Or is it a one and done deal, once a year, once a month? What's that look like?
Yeah, it's going to differ for different students. A lot of it has to do with how many activities and what type of activities you're participating in. I would say my suggestion, just generally speaking, is the more frequently you do it, the less work it is when you do it. So if you students will keep track of, they became student council president, and so you might already have student council in there, but you want to go in and add in that you were president from this year to this year or something. And so the more that you do that, it's just the less you have to remember what did I do 3 years ago in the spring? There was something about just put it in when it happens, and like I said, it's mobile friendly. It's always been mobile friendly as long as I've been here. It was a big focus for us, and so that's one of those things that like you can just pull out your phone, log into your Education Quest account, add in something real quick, and then log out and go on with your life. And so you don't have to be like, you remember this for when I get back to my computer or something like that. So it makes it really, really helpful, I think, for students just to have that kind of thing. At the very least, I think students really should focus on once a semester. Usually at the end of semester, I would say would be the most likely places when you're going to sit there and say like, okay, so what did I do this semester? Put that in there so that you can just kind of move on and do what you're going to do next semester.
I feel like this advice will carry over into our next question a little bit because let's say you're like, a brand new freshman or sophomore, you maybe don't have that many activities yet, you've never even thought about a resume before. What advice would you give to students who are just beginning to build their resumes for the first time?
Don't wait to get started, even if you don't feel like you have a lot of stuff to put on your resume. Every little bit just helps you along the road. So yeah, just like I said, early, often, that's a good advice I think for a lot of things, and then definitely comes into play here when we're talking about resume stuff. The other thing that I think that would really help students that are early in high school is to see what kinds of things matter. We've built this over a very long period of time. We have a lot of very intelligent, very experienced people that have had input in this tool. This is not something that's developed in a vacuum, even inside of Education Quest. Like I said, we take feedback from the outside. We hear from counselors. We hear from other agents. We talk to other people in the fields. Our staff are always out there, hearing what students need. And they bring that back to us from a programming standpoint so that we can build a tool that meets that needs. So you might go in there and say like, well, I don't have anything to add, but you'll see that, oh, there's a category for references. Maybe I should start thinking about who would be a reference for me. Or, there's a category for honors and awards. So, hey, maybe I should start keeping track of, when I win an award or when um, on a team that wins or something like that. Oh, that's things I should start keeping, track of. Um, Athletics, these are just all things that like maybe you don't know what you're going to try to do, but we're just trying to show you like these are the things that we see a lot. So maybe it's something you should think about doing in the next 4 years.
Yeah. And so let's say, a student does start one their freshman year to keep track of everything. How long will they actually have access to that? How long are resumes stored?
It's a fluid question, I would say. There's always limits to anything. We will keep your resume alive in activities resume as long as you're using it. So we're not gonna if this is useful for you for the next 60 years of your life until you retire, our plan is to be there. We have no expectations of shutting this down. Uh, so that's kind of the big question I think is like as long as you do it. Now, if you're not in the tool, if you're not active in anything actually in Education Quest, so not even activities resume, like if you just don't need anything from us. We do delete accounts every 3 years if they've been inactive. Well, we delete them all the time. If they've been inactive for 3 years and haven't been logged into, that's when we delete them. But we do send like 7 emails to you telling you like we're going to delete your account. So one, make sure the email that you put on your account when you set up your My Education Quest account is an email that you can actually check and check that email on a fairly regular basis because all you have to do is log in and we're like, yep, good, we'll save it for another 3 years. So you really shouldn't have any problems with starting your freshman year and maybe you don't pick it up until junior year when you're starting to apply for scholarships and look at colleges and things like that. We'll still be there for you.
Yeah, and I feel like you said, at the end of every semester, even if you just log in, your account will still be there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, you'll never worry about it deleting it if that's the case.
and so we touched on, data and privacy a little bit ago. Is the data private and secure that students are putting into their resumes? Like, who else has access to the resume besides the student themselves?
Yeah, good question. I mean, as far as the data that's in activities resume, well, it's an activities resume, no one has access to it. We don't even see the information that's stored in it. Um, we see generalized information, what categories are being used, how many activities might be in that category or something. But actually being able to get in and see information, see the raw data, that's the security portion of that. And we take a lot of steps to make sure that that information is private and secure. We do need to, when we're utilizing AI, obviously we have another resource that's out there that's providing that tool and those recommendations and stuff. So as I mentioned before, like when you activate AI, that's the point at which we will send the information that's on there to that. Now, one of the things we did have this security concern is like how long would that pipe be open and what could be I say leaked through that and stuff. So we do have you reactivate that for every activity, and that's because we don't want you just forgetting that AI is there for you and just constantly doing that stuff and then sharing that information with them to do that. And so um, we do that to try to also limit kind of how much exposure the student data will have to other parties and stuff like that. And we continue to monitor these things. We're always taking this seriously. It changes day to day, so tomorrow this might be a look different and feel different because we have to address data security on an ongoing basis. But hopefully our users know that like we're paying attention to this, we're keeping this, and we take their data very, very seriously. And so if we are going to share your information, we will tell you that before it happens. So you have the option to say, nope, not for me. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. All right, Jason, I have one final question for you because you've
Okay.
been working in this tool and building this tool for months, lots of blood, sweat, and tears put into this. And so, what kind of impact do you hope this upgraded activities resume tool will have on Nebraska students?
I just hope that honestly, that it continues to have the impact that Activities Resume has had over the years. This has been a very unique tool for us to offer and offer for free. When we were building this, we've looked at tools that charge $10 a month to be able to do some of the stuff that we're allowing students to do. So, I really hope that Nebraska students take advantage of it. I hope that it helps them achieve what they want to achieve. I've heard stories about students who have uploaded their resume and from activities resume to a scholarship application and got that scholarship. And it's the student that does that. It's the student's performance over their high school career that earned them that scholarship. But it is so rewarding to know that something that we built helped them along the way, helped them tell their story, and showcase, who they are and what makes them great. So, I hope that students really look at that and say, like, this is a tool that can really help me, and I find value in it. And and if it doesn't, if there's parts that can be better, I really hope that people reach out to us and tell us, because we will take all of that feedback. And I am always looking to make this a bigger impact for Nebraska students. So if there is a way that we can impact students and help them along the way, we're always looking for how we can do that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jason, for sharing all these details about our new update. It's very exciting.
Thank you for having me. It was great to have this conversation about activities resume, and hopefully it motivates people to click the link, go over to educationquest.org and check it out.
Yeah. And did we mention again? It's free, so go over.
Yeah, I don't, we probably should mention that one more time, that it is a free tool.
And so, to our audience, if you ever need any help with anything college related, you can contact an Education Quest office near you for free help. You can find all that contact information or schedule an appointment at educationquest.org. While you are there, make sure you sign up also for the Countdown to College weekly email that's filled with college tips and tricks. Also, help us get out this message to as many students as possible by subscribing to this podcast on your favorite platform and hitting the like button on this episode. Thank you for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.